Yo, should be live. Oh, live. I don't know if I'm live or not. I should be live. I haven't ever actually done this. Why isn't it working? Um. Hmm. I haven't ever actually done this. Okay, it's just a latency. Okay, I'm live. Nice. Right, this is very important stream here. Go and we don't care about that much. Official rules. MK80X 150cc launch official rule set. This is a very important thing to read. I highly recommend you read it on your own time. Obviously, there will be, if you're watching this later, there will likely be chapters if you want to skip to a certain part. I do recommend that you read it yourself. This will be going through it for beginners, whatever. Now, if you understand the rules more thoroughly, I do recommend going deeper into it, learning more of the rules, and then yeah, all that. It's not too long. Honestly, like you should be reading this every day, anyways, or every time you do a mortgage. Sorry, I don't usually do mortgage more than once a day anyway, so that's why I said that. Apologies. I know for some people that can be 4 or 5 mortgage, maybe, possibly more. I just want to make it clear you should read it the entirety before each mortgage. We'll start at the start. MK8DX 150cc launch official rule set. Now here the MK8DX stands for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. 150cc means 150 centimeter cubed. It refers to, and some languages it would be 150 ccm, centimeter cubed. It's like engine, but it's not engine. I forget. Centimeter cubed, anyways. So let's read the first part. 1. Joining the launch. This is section 1. And if we go into part A, upon joining the server, users under MK Central registry account in the hashtag MK Central links channel in our Discord server for help doing this further this guide. So, what is... Oh, there's someone join. Yo, hello, Connor. You're live, by the way.
Hello.
Right. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, but don't constantly interrupt because this is a very informative stream and it's meant as such. Right. So we're just after reading 1A, and now let's interpret this. Upon joining the server, you might be confused what server this is. The server they are referring to is the 150cc lounge server. This server is linked there. It's maybe a bit ambiguous if you only just somehow found this link on its own, but usually you would find this link by going to that server, and so this makes perfect sense. There's a guide. This guide will be for another day potentially, but it should be straightforward. So this is just you send your registry account in this specific channel. First you have to make an MK Central account. What is MK Central? MK Central is basically where Mario Kart competitive Mario Kart 8 Deluxe comes into play. Very important, and you are recommended to make an account if you want to play Mario Kart 8 Deluxe competitively. But you usually hardly use the account because you don't need to use the website so much. You just need the existence of an account. I think that makes sense. And then our Discord server, although not clearly specified, is referring to the 150cc launch Discord server. And then there's a guide if you need help. That's fine, completely fine. This ain't really section all the rules. This is really just telling you how to join. But it's still in this rules section, so we're going to treat it as such. Okay, so part B now. If you'd like a specific nickname for the scoreboard and Discord server, you can ask for that too. If you already have a rank and would like to change your name, you can request nickname changes in hashtag name change request. Players can change their launch nickname once every 60 days. Nicknames cannot be reverted during the 60-day period between changes. This is a few things here to digest. First, there's a condition. If you'd like a specific nickname for the scoreboard and Discord server, you can ask for that too. You don't have to, like, you might not like a specific nickname, you might not care, but you would still be able to ask for one. So this conditional scenario, the condition here doesn't make any sense. I would recommend, if you would like a specific nickname for the scoreboard and Discord server, it is recommended that you ask for whatever said specific nickname is. That way it'd be much more precise. It isn't actually against the rule to ask for a specific nickname while not wanting one. That's completely fine. If you already have a rank and would like to change your name, you can request nickname change and name change request. Yeah, that's fine. If you look in that part of the server, we can go into name change request. Here, and you can see a bunch of RNs, whatever. It's automated, so you don't need to worry about too much. Like there's some that it might not allow. If we look up your name, whatever. Basically, if it's an illegal name, don't worry about it. It will tell you. You don't have to worry like, oh wait, does someone already have this name? Because they all have to be unique for scoreboard reasoning. You're fine with that. Players can change their own name once every 60 days. Nicknames cannot be reverted during the 60-day period between changes. You don't need to, while following the rules, you don't need to worry about this too much, as you can't really affect it. It will keep you on track. So that's just a reminder, and then you know stuff. So let's look at the rules for nicknames in BI. Nicknames may only contain letters, at least one in bracket, numbers, space, period, full stops, hyphens, or underscores. Whether the word order, I would recommend and, unless you can't have a hyphen and underscore. I am not sure. I think you can though. But the way that sounds is you can only contain letters, numbers, like as if you can only contain one of them out of all of them. But in fact, you can have letters and numbers in names, or spaces even. If we look up here, we can see a number and a letter. We can see a space and letters here as well. And there's potential that you see multiple of them. I'm sure you're familiar with and all that. So yeah, very important thing. But don't worry too much about that. They must start and end with only letters or numbers and must be between 2 to 16 characters. So yeah, one kind of mess it up, but we bet it will be and instead of or. What? Sorry, interjection here. What is happening now? I am reading the 150cc launch rules live for people who don't want to read it. No, I am not turning on dark mode. Light mode is for your. Hey. Menace, we're streaming here. Come on, Menace. Come courtesy. Yeah, we're not turning on dark mode. It's better for your eyes, light mode, especially when you have blepharitis. I think. I don't know, but yeah, I'm not turning it. Yeah. Thanks for the suggestion. Where were we? So yeah, part 2 here. They must start and end with only letters or numbers and must be between 2 and 16 characters. That's all fine. Honestly, the only problem here is the fact that this ought to be an and instead, I feel like. Even then, some lawyers might know more about that and they might explain more interpretations. Again, this ain't this isn't deep diving, this is just like scratching the surface, as we say. So yeah, we'll say for the moment part 2 is fine. I don't see anything wrong with that. Part 3 now, they also may not contain any vulgar language or impersonate another MKC user. There is no strict guidelines on what is vulgar or not. That's up to mod discretion, which honestly fine. If we look at this real quick, we can see some stuff. If I go into Totals, for example, and do /name log, we can.
Patrick, I just want to say I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries. We can see that, for example, Boner was allowed. Now there was another name that was ejected that had Boner in it, but some would consider. There are sometimes it's to do with context. Sometimes they allow it, sometimes they're not. But yes, it's not strict. IV here has a general rule of thumb. This is just more of a guideline more than a rule, I would say, personally. But in most cases, because it says in most cases, that shows as a guideline. If your name can be used as a Twitter username, you can use it in launch. Um, Maybe there could be a wee bit better wording there, but I think it's generally fine given that there's the automated system for this anyways. So interpreting this section is not necessary. Exceptions may be granted on a case by case basis. Fair enough. Um, again, like this is generally fine. For example, an exception could be the fact that if someone's using the name, you can't use it. Uh, Although that should probably be stated in the rules. Part C here says making an alternate account to join lounge will result in a heavy penalty in lounge and MK Central. MK Central staff will find out if an alternate account is made, so it's highly recommended to not do so. So, okay, making an alternative account to join loans will result in a heavy penalty. You could word this a wee bit better, whatever. Now, this second part here, it's saying they will find out. That's put a lot of onus on them. I would say, I would say like MK Central staff will likely find out. That way, like if they still make an error, it's fine and they're not breaking the rule by not knowing. But they have strong enough staff and they're confident that they would find it. That's fine. I shouldn't really interject on that. We'll just go with it. So that's section 1 done. How many sections are there? 12 sections. Okay, so we're about halfway done already. Not bad, I'd say. Not bad. Right. They are annoying and should kick them from. I am not part of YQ. I'm just using one of the random voice channels, unfortunately, DK. So yeah, I have. If it comes to it, I could mute them on my half, but that's the most I could do. And I'll leave that until like if it gets really bad. But yeah. So part 2 here is ranking system. Now, whenever you're playing Mario Kart 8 Deluxe 150cc launch, it is seen as a competitive way of playing Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, especially on the 150cc game mode. There is also wars and stuff that you can do, clan wars or 6v6. But if you're playing solely, launch is the way you're playing it. So a ranking system makes a lot of sense because to have a competitive nature, you would need some way of ranking. Or it would be highly recommended at the very least. So let's read A here. It's a bit hefty, so stay with me here. Once a staff member has seen your account, you will be placed into one of the following ranks. Now, I would say it's not immediate. They do actually have to take time to see it and all, but that's fine. Iron 1, which is between 0 and 999 MMR. Iron 2, which is between 1000 and 1999 MMR, and has a placement of 1500. We'll get back to what these placements mean in a sec. Bronze 1, which is between 2000 and 2999 MMR. Or Bronze 1 placement, and placement at 2500. Or, yeah. And we have Bronze 2 at 3000 to 3999 MMR with a placement of 3500, and Silver 1 at 4999 placement. Placement of 4500. Silver 2 at 5000 to 599 MMR. We have Gold 1 at 6000 and 6999 MMR. Gold 2 at 7000 to 7999 MMR. Platinum 1 to 8000 from 8000 to 8999 MMR. Platinum 2 from 9000 to 9999 MMR. Sapphire 1 from 10,000 MMR to 10,999 MMR. Sapphire 2 to 11,000 to 11,000 MMR to 11,999 MMR. Ruby 1 from 12,000 MMR to 12,999 MMR. Ruby 2 from 13,000 to 13,999 MMR. Diamond 1 from 14,000 to 14,999 MMR. Diamond 2
Why? Where's my box?
15,999 MMR. Master from 16,000 to
Oh, dude, where's my box?
16,999.
Oh,
Okay, sorry about that. He's now muted, so we should not hear much from him now. That should be one of the last interruptions. I will apologies for that, Menace, but you're muted now. I can't hear anything you're saying. Where were we? I think I'll go back to Diamond anyways. I think that's safe enough. So yeah, Diamond 1 from 14,000 MMR to 14,999 MMR. Diamond 2 from 15,000 to 15,999 MMR. Master from 16,000 to 16,999 MMR. And finally, Grandmaster at 17,000 MMR and more. So that's a lot. There is an easy way to remember it. Now, if you look here, there are in stages of 1,000 MMR. Each rank goes up 1,000. That's a very easy way to remember it. And it goes Iron, Bronze, Silver, Gold, Platinum, Sapphire, Ruby, Diamond, Master, Grandmaster. All of them has a 1 and a 2, apart from Master and Grandmaster. You can think of Grandmaster as Master 2 and Master as Master 1, if that helps you remember it. And then just do the maths and you'll figure out, okay, Grandmaster is 17k plus MMR. Diamond 1 is 14,000 to 14,999 MMR. It's very, very simple once you get the hang of it. Thank you, Connor. Dicky, you did not need to time you out there. I think that was fine, honestly. But yeah, maybe I regret already giving you rod. At least ask if they want to take the gamble first. So yeah, now what did the placement mean? Now, this is worded quite poorly. Once a staff member has seen your account, you will be placed in one of the following ranks. I wanted to read it first, but the thing is, it's referring to placement ranks. But only Silver 1 to Iron 2 is possible for you to get from a placement. And as you can see, the placement ranks are 1,500, 2,500, 3,500, and 4,500. Yeah, so you cannot. So it really should only mention these bits, and then it should maybe mention the ranking of. Maybe mention this whole bit later somewhere else, maybe next to it, whatever. Maybe they just didn't want to do that. Maybe they probably just done it to make it look better. But this is a decent sized mistake. It's not too worrying, though. I guess technically it gives the mods the right to just give someone Grandmaster from seeing it. So there is kind of an MMR glitch here where you can just get Grandmaster by a staff seeing your account. It doesn't give guidelines, weirdly enough. But so yeah, there is a glitch here where you can get up to 17,000 plus MMR for nothing. I would call that an infinite MMR glitch if you ask me now, but at the moment there's not many people that know about this rule or this oversight, so there hasn't actually been any uses. So that's good. Uses of this glitch that could be very game breaking, as it could lead to a lot of MMR inflation. But for the moment we're fine. But yes, there is some problems with that. But as long as people don't know about this, it should be fine enough. So B says, if you're unhappy with your placement or feel that you should have been placed higher or lower, then prove it by playing matches. The system will correct itself quite quickly if you deserve a higher or lower grouping. If you have been inactive for at least 6 months, that will consider a placement change. Now, here is a decent sized problem, I'll be honest. Now, I did bring that to the attention of 150cc loans before. If we scroll up a bit, there's been a lot of messages apparently. We'll start from okay. In general, I am sorry, technical difficulty. We'll just say yeah, here we have it. A lot of people brought it to attention after I said it because they thought it was a very important thing. But here's the original here, if we jump to it. Section. Oh wait, that's the wrong one. Sorry. Yeah, and this is actually the section. What I was going to say is, this is what actually caused me to make the stream. This part. Oh no, it was a different part. Apologies, misremembered. Uh, but there was a similar reasoning behind this. Um, there's this if you are whatever. Okay, so these ifs are conditional based. However, the way they are used are non-conditional, or they're not based on what they claim to be based on. That's a big problem, because here it says if you're unhappy with your placement or feel that you should have been placed higher or lower, then prove it by playing matches. So what does that mean? It's not saying if you if you're unhappy with your placement or feel that you should have been placed higher or lower, then show that you should have been placed higher or lower by playing matches. In that case, it would have made sense. Even then, you would need to clean up the wording a bit, as it shouldn't be a command. Like some people are like, I'm unhappy, but like, I don't really want to play it. But this, if you're unhappy, you have to play matches. And the thing is, you have to prove that you're unhappy. You don't have to prove that you deserve a higher or lower placement. You just have to prove that you're unhappy with your placement, which I don't really get it. Then the system will correct itself quite quickly. So whenever, and this rest of the part is fine. But like whenever you take that approach to the interpretation, there's kind of that big problem, overlooking problem, which yeah. So yeah, that's kind of a mess there. I would nearly redo all of that and just rewrite it. I wouldn't even keep a lot of it. It's nearly better just delete it and then replace in another fixed version. So then part C here, we can see, depending on your rank, you will see 1 to 2 channels that you can play matches in, listed below. And then it gives the list here. I'll go quickly through it for the people who can't be bothered reading. TOG, Iron 1, Iron 2, and Placement. TOFT, Iron 2 and Bronze 1. TOF, Bronze 1 and Bronze 2. TOEF, Bronze 2 and Silver 1. TOE, Silver 1 and Silver 2. TODE, Silver 2 and Gold 1. TOD, Gold 1 and Gold 2. TOCD, Gold 2 and Platinum 1. TOC, Platinum 1 and Platinum 2. TOBC, Platinum 2 and Sapphire 1. TOB, Sapphire 1 and Sapphire 2. TOAB, Sapphire 2 and Ruby 1. TOA, Ruby 1 plus. TOS, Ruby 2 plus. TOX, Diamond 1 plus. And you might notice the problem there. Maybe you haven't, but there was an line problem there. The words are lying to you. So if the words are lying, can we really trust it? You may be wondering, where is the words lying? Wait, depending on your rank, you will see 1 to 2 channels that you can play matches in, listed below. And we have a list of all the ranks here. We can go through it. Iron 1, Iron 2 is fine. Iron 1, you see 1. Iron 2, and placement, you see 1. For Iron 2, Bronze 1, Bronze 2, Silver 1, Silver 2, Gold 1, Gold 2, Platinum 1, Platinum 2, Sapphire 1, Sapphire 2, Ruby 1, and Ruby 2, you see 2 channels each. But however, Diamond 1, Diamond 2, Master and Grandmaster allows you to see 3 channels. So this bit here is a lie. And since it says depending on your rank, it acknowledges that. So there's a built-in glitch. And I don't know, no, I haven't bothered grinding. So if you know any Diamond players or above players, you might want to ask them about this glitch and how it affects them. Because of the glitch, there's no resolution to the glitch. And so it could have unexpected results, and like it's a bug and a feature. Like it's not a feature; it's like actually very, very worrying, I'd say. But yeah, so that's a very worrying mistake there. I have no idea how it could be resolved, because I'm not high enough to know where it leads the problem to. I think the easiest thing you will see 1 to 3 channels. I think that would be the easiest way to fix it. But let's move on to section 3. So we're about close to halfway done here. Only another 2, I'd say about 2 hours and we'll be done. Gathering lineups, in bracket launch queue. For context, launch queue is quite a recent development, so the rules here might be a wee bit dodgy, but we'll see. Part A. In the hashtag Q join channel, players can type /C to queue into matches for each hour between 55 and 58 at each hour. The queue will close and rooms will be created in order of MMR. So here it might be a bit confusing for newcomers. The hashtag Q join, whenever you see hashtag, that's referring to a Discord channel in the My Character 150cc launch. So Discord server. So it is on about a Discord channel called Q join, which is this here. So as you can see, people can join in here at different moments and all that. So yeah, that's honestly fine, and so that's what I was referring to. So now a bit more interpretation is needed. Players can type /C, which you can do. Now I'm not going to do it because we won't be done by then. But not only, you can also /D. I'm not sure if it said it after. We'll read it in a bit. But yes, you can do /C to can up, which is what all these people done here, and eventually get list. So that's that context. To queue into matches for each hour between 55 and 58. Now, between 55 and 58 at each hour, the queue will close and rooms will be created in order of MMR. Now, you have to be very careful when reading this bit. There's that space here, so this means this is a new line. This line really shouldn't be part of the rules, more about context. But anyways, it is not saying that you can only queue into the matches between 55 and 58. It is saying that between 55 and 58 at each hour, the queue will close and rooms will be created in order of MMR. Now, if you're unfamiliar, by 55 and 58 to that colon, what it means is, right now, if you look at down here, it's 2027. So, if they were on about launch rules, they would say 27, ... 27. They get rid of the hour mark because that's irrelevant due to time zones. There's confusion with that. So this means you can input any hour here due to context, and then at 55 to 58 inclusively, so like including or exclusively including 55 and 58 in and of itself, it will close. So yeah, 55 and 58, it can close at minute 55 or minute 58 of the hour. So anywhere between 5 to whatever hour, or 5 2 o'clock and 2 o'clock, the queue will close, and rooms will be created in order of MMR. What that means is groups of 12. People will be in groups of 12 from the top to the bottom, MMR wise. If there are people spare, then they will get rid of the people who were late or the last people to join, unless there was a priority, which is fine. Don't worry too much about it. If it happens, it happens, but try to be there early, or a few minutes early anyways. Typically though, you usually get enough for an even amount of the 12 because of a system they have in place. So if we look at the subsection I here, if a multiple of 12 players cannot be reached by the queue closing time, the last player's queue will be removed, as I just said. Typically how that works though is, at the earliest it closes at least 55, and then it waits. If you have a multiple of 12 in the queue already, then all of them, the room will be created instantly, or will start to be created immediately, and people can't rejoin, or can't join from then onwards. Otherwise, it will let people join up until you get to 50, until either you get to 58, or, and the more likely case, it finally enough people counts up, or drops, I guess, to where a multiple of 12 is now reached, in which case they'll close. So that's why you don't usually have to worry too much, but this is just an inner scenario. So let's look at part B now. Once rooms have been created, players can click on buttons in the room threads to vote for a format. Clicking the button for the format you have voted for will undo your vote. Format votes are anonymous. Right, let's dissect this a bit. Once rooms have been created, so this is given us a hypothetical or a time frame. So when they have created, and when the rooms are created, they do not mean by rooms, they mean whenever I can't show it here because there's no more going on here at the time. But basically, there's to be a bunch of threads, and see here, room 8, whatever, room 9, room 7, room 6, all that, depending on your MMR. There will be a channel that you'll see, and only use 12 players, a few bots, and staff will be able to see, and the players can vote in formats. So, yeah, players can click on buttons in the room thread, presuming they have a room, in their room threads. But so yeah, it is done before the My Character Deluxe rooms are being made, or the rooms, so friend rooms. So just to let you know, it's when the Discord server rooms are being made. It's never room thread, I should say, being made. So it's a bit misleading there, and it could lead to some confusion. So yeah, they're like very sneakily trying to get an upper hand in voting. This is misinformation very seriously. Now, if I were you, this is why personally I deliberately vote for 4v4 as a protest until they make the rules better to properly explain to people how to vote. I'll vote 4v4, which is what people typically find the worst. This is a very effective way of protesting. We used to do 6v6 on 200cc launch, but it got banned. Partly my fault, but that we won't talk about that. Clicking the bot for the format you have voted for will undo your vote, and then you can click it again because it's no longer the vote that you've done it. So it's no longer the format you have to vote for because you have no vote for any of the formats, and then it will redo it. So if it happens, you can re-vote if you accidentally unvote. So don't worry about that. You're giving your vote back, in other words. Format votes are anonymous, so you can't really see who votes for what. At least not immediately, anyways. So, part I of that, players who drop for any reason after the poll has been started will receive a minus 100 MMR strike. What it should be saying is they will receive minus 100 MMR and a strike, because a strike is different from an MMR loss. A strike section later on. There's a strike section later on, so it'll be explained there. But yes, that's another smaller, it's more of it leads to confusion, I would say, because you can't really follow the letter of the rules this way because of the problems. Like if this was a piece of Java, it would not compile. It cannot compile. There's just too many problems with it. So part 2 here, if the event is an FFA, only a host will be needed and the event can start immediately. Well, only a host is needed to be. There's a bit of confusion about what it means by only. The circumference of what it means. You also do need the 11 players. They also all need to have a Switch, Nintendo Switch online, some form of playing Mario Kart 8 Deluxe online. There need to be a method to either exchange friend codes, or a method to get into the friend room, maybe via code. So it's very selling it when it says only a host will be needed. There is a lot more needed. Now, what I think it is referring to is the fact that there is no need for teams to be randomized, because there are no teams. In which case, could be better worded if that's what they mean. Because if only a host is needed, then how do you play competitive Mario Kart with only one player? I don't fully understand that. Oh, it says a host. It doesn't even mention that the host is a player, but I think that's explained later down somewhere. So, not great, but if you read the entire rules, you might have to go back up to this bit, but you should be fine. You might be able to figure it out, but yeah, it's not great. I'll say that much anyways. Part 3. If the event is a 2v2, 3v3, or 4v4 mode, teams will be randomized. This is these smaller parts are just for context more so, which is fine. You want context, but yeah. Teams will be randomized via a bot. But yeah, once teams are randomized, they are final and cannot be changed. Players who violate this rule will receive a minus 50 MMR and a strike. Yeah, see, this is how you should have said it. It shouldn't be it should be receive minus 100 MMR and a strike. That's how. So yeah, as you can see, even if you're reading the rules, you can tell what I'm saying, backed up from precedent from other parts of the rules, even if it's just a wee bit later on. I do actually know what I'm talking about here. I've been studying the rules for a wee bit here. So any questions, feel free to ask. Yeah. So I'm out of the launch thing. So once teams are random. So yeah, that's a wee bit of context. It's better written. Um, there is a problem though here. There is actually a very big problem here, I would say. Once teams are randomized, their final cannot be changed. And if we look down here, I'll explain it actually when we go through it a lot so we can all put it together because it's more of the same one. In the event that a sub is needed, players can use that /sub command to have the bot search for a sub in #Q subs. Here actually the word players the conditional is actually fine. Players can the word can here, they're not meaning capability, you would have the capability regardless, but the permission to. By needed, the word that it's using there is actually, see, needed has a lot of definitions, or definition of needed, but need something, typically to need something. It is also to want something. I'm not sure if it'll show it here, but yes. So to need something doesn't always actually mean to fit, like, to be necessary. That's not necessarily what it means. Very important. I would go with the very important, rather than just desirable for this bit. But yeah, so it does fit the criteria, I would say, anyways. If you want to argue that, bring it up, like, but that's a very much more scholarly debate, and I don't want to get into that all section. So yeah, this bit, fine. You can use a sub, and then it says players can sub into a room if their MMR is within 500 MMR of the lowest player or 500 MMR of the highest player of that room. It should mention MMR there both times because otherwise it's not telling you the units. 500 watt. If you've ever been in Minecraft, you really need to check your units. What, 500 meters of the lowest player or 500? What? Like, that doesn't make any sense. 500,000 MMRs or kilo MMR? Like, most people are within 500 kilo MMR of the lowest player, given that the highest player have only reached 18,000 MMR as of reaching. So yeah, kinda like you need to fix it. Just put MMR there twice and the problem's fixed, I would say, for the most part. Part D says if a sub cannot be found 20 minutes after scheduled start time, an event may be cancelled with no penalty for the remaining players. Fine. Sub cannot be found, then an event may be cancelled with no penalty. But it may be. It's not a necessity that it has to be. Keep that in mind. If staff intervention is, Part E says if staff intervention is needed in launch queue room, players can use the staff command, ! staff command, and that would ping staff members basically. You don't really need to worry about how the command works, but it is useful to getting staff's attention. That's all you need to know. It should probably mention that it's useful to get staff attention, but if you try it out whenever you have the permission to, you'll soon understand how it works. But that's more something that you can do in your own time. I'm on a rogue at the moment, so I cannot show you. So what's the problem here? How does this? Is there a sec? I think there is a section on. Is there a better section to bring this up in? I don't think there is a better. I think we can just bring it up here then. Okay. Once teams are random, their final cannot be changed. The thing is how subs work. They kinda work in the sense that a sub work is if a player does not show up or whatever, and they need a sub. So that sub plays for the player who they are subbing. But that means that the teams are being changed and that they are being put on that team in place of the person they are subbing. So in that sense, the teams are being changed. So when I say they cannot be changed, it's a lie. And so players who violate this rule will receive a -50 MMR on a strike. Who's exactly violating that rule though? Whose fault is that? Who do they count as violating? Not entirely sure. Is it both players, the one being subbed and the one subbing? I'm unsure. But the fact is, subs should be legal as it becomes an integral part of launch, I believe. And they even have systems to get sub, but by this means subs are not legal. Like there's no sub implications of sub from when the Morgie start that would be allowed. But the system sort, so doesn't really make sense. But yeah, so big problem there. Very big problem. Need to be worded better. It's also lying as it can be changed. But and it's listed here again before. Welcome, Maple.
Hello.
Hello. We are just reading the launch rules. Oh, hello, Rid. Welcome in. We have done the first 3 sections. You're familiar with Morgies, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah, so you would agree that you read the rules every time before you Morgie, correct? Like, that's the proper etiquette, isn't it?
You should,
Yes.
but unfortunately not many people do.
Exactly. That's the problem, because it could update. I know I'm just going through here showing a list of the rules. I'm reading it and then showing some problems. We've just gotten to the part where it shows that subs are technically illegal, even though there are mechanics for it. But we're now going on to part 4, gathering lineups, in bracket, tier system. Using part A, using MorgieBot, the first 12 players to say /C or play. Any player later than 12th on the list will be sub, given priority by the order on the list. If a player is unable to sub when needed or does not respond within 5 minutes, they will receive a -50 penalty and a strike. The word needed there is used a bit loosely, but as shown by the definition of needed before, I would still say it's within proper use. You also got to realize whenever I use the dictionary, that is not the authority on language. I am not claiming it to be such. To be doing such would be the appeal to authority fallacy. Merely, words are based on the use of people use it in, and dictionaries reflect that use, but they are often not 100% accurate with uses of it, with certain uses. But don't worry too much about that. So yeah, that's relatively fine. I wouldn't worry too much about that. Part B says, the next player in the MorgieBot lineup will always have priority when subbing into an event. If a different subs in when the next player in the MorgieBot lineup is able to play, they will receive a -50 MMR on a strike. Now that's fine and all. There are some underground rules, or unspoken rules, I should say, that you might want to know about. Like, if a player agrees to let you sub instead for them, you don't typically receive the MMR and the strike. Usually it goes unpunished, but I guess that is an underground rule. It's not officially written anywhere, so be careful whenever you're doing it. Just know there is a bit of a risk, but you should generally be fine. Part C says, players cannot /D for 15 seconds after typing /C. A /C will automatically expire after 20 minutes have passed. A list of players can be found using /L. /D means to drop, and that will drop you from the Morgie. It will automatically expire, but if you talk, it usually resets to 20 minutes. So if you type anything in the chat, it's more just for a safety call for an activity. Players are not allowed to type /, so it is a bit of an error there, but generally, like, you could follow that principle and you would still be fine. So it's just a bit misleading, but it's not too big of an error, I would say, or too big of an issue. It is a big error, obviously. Part D says, players are not allowed to type /C in a tier they are currently playing in until they have crossed the finish line at the end of the 12th race. For example, players are not allowed to queue up for a tier D match while currently playing in one. Players who violate this rule will receive -50 MMR on a strike. There is a slight problem here. Race 12. Now, by the end of the 12th race, it doesn't mention that the end of the 12th completed race. Maybe there's a reason for that, but technically, if you say the room crashed race 5, then you have to play 8 more races in a new lobby. Technically, by that standard, the 7th race, which would be race 11 based on the 11th counting race, or the 12th, would be the 12th race. So after you finish that, you could can up. That's not typically done, though. Most people don't think of that. Maybe you could try it, and you should be fine, but yeah. There's also there's also some cases to worry about, like if room crashes after you pass the line on race 12 and the race doesn't count. But if that happens, you should be fine. So part I says players are allowed to type /C in a different tier than the one they are currently playing in. For example, players are allowed to queue up for a tier CD match while currently playing in a tier D match. Nonetheless, players are still subject to penalties if they fail to join in time, which can be seen in Rule 5A, 5B, and 5C, which we'll get to in a bit. So yeah, that's a bit of context. Now that is presuming you're able to see COT. You are physically able to interact in tier C and D. On delaying the mortgage given a certain this is 150cc launch wood, not 200cc launch. So these people wouldn't know anything about that. So there wouldn't typically be a rule for them type of stuff. I also don't think they would. I don't know. There should be rules on delaying. There are rules on delaying mortgage, I'm pretty sure though. But it is not to do with a certain Irish man. At least for 150cc anyway, that I'm pretty sure of. So yeah, a bit of a problem there, but yeah, fine. Well, it's yeah, like if you're able to see it. So they are not. Yeah, you're allowed to, but it's just if you're actually able to. So I guess that's actually fine, but it's a bit misleading, potentially. Part 2 says, players who leave an event before it finishes are not allowed to join a morgue until the event they left finished. This is the 12th race. Players violate the rule will see -50 MMR and a strike. Leaves an event before it finishes are not allowed to join a morgue. So yeah, that's just saying if you leave an event, you can't. Basically, this is just telling you if you leave an event, you cannot join an event that you would before the other morgue elite finishes. So you can't really cheat in a way to get into multiple morgues that you shouldn't be able to due to overlapping time. Yeah, but there's also a problem with the 12th race ambiguity. They say until the event they left finishes the 12th race. The problem is here that sometimes events are cancelled, and in that case, 12th races may not have been completed, in which case you're stuck in a type of purgatory, you could say, where you can no longer play a morgue. So it's like a soft ban, like it's quite worrisome. I feel like this is like actually something big, somewhat of a big deal here, and to be fixed. But yeah, usually they're not that strict on it, and again, players who violate the rule will see -50 MMR on a strike. If you're stuck in purgatory, it is nearly better to take that risk because the strike won't have much an effect compared to overall, and the -50 MMR you can gain back. So if you're stuck in purgatory, just it is recommended you break this rule. Usually it isn't taken like that, but yeah. Part 3 says, these rules do not apply in the early launch queue format. Players may queue up for their match immediately and do not have to wait for their current match to finish. That's true, but I would be careful. Sometimes these early launch queue format can take a while, and potentially you might miss it. You might miss part of your next morgue if it's not done soon enough. So I would always be careful on that and only use it if you know for a fact it's going to be done. Maybe by race 10 or race 11 if you're feeling risky. Part E says, after 8 races are passed in the current morgue, users not currently playing are allowed to start a new morgue. They do that by doing /ESN, which means end and start new. But yeah, so typically you have to ask people what races they're in, but again, relatively fine. A bit of confusion on 8 races, but yeah, it's gonna keep having that mistake, so we just keep that in mind. Part F says, once lineups are gained, I'm not sure if gained is used in the right context, but okay. Once lineups are gained, well, I guess, yeah, no, that's actually fine. I just got confused there, my bad. multi-bot voting will be used to decide on the format. The first 12 players who originally said can are allowed to vote. Anyone who is not part of the original 12 in the lineup is not permitted to vote. Again, this is similar to the other part, but part 1 says player who drop for any reason after the poll has been started will receive a minus 100 MMR strike. 2 says if the event is an FFA, only a host will be needed and the event can start immediately. 3 says if the event is a 2v2, 3v2 or 4v4, teams will be randomized. And 4 says once teams are random, their final players who violate the rules will receive minus 50 MMR on the strike. Again, that's very close to copy and paste. It might even be a copy and paste from the previous ones. So the same errors apply there. We're not going to go through them again. If you wish to recap that, you can go back into the stream where we mentioned the gathering launch or part 3 launch rules. But yeah, the same rules there. Once lineups are gained, once they are given, the first 12 players who within said can are allowed to vote. Yeah, so like even if you, there was a few like bits where like if you drop before it, you might not be part of the original 12 anymore, or you might not be part of, you might still be part of the original 12 but not playing in the Morgie and you're still able to vote. That's a bit messy, I think, but still I guess like it's relatively fine. Like it's a low cases scenario, so there's low risk. But G says if your rank rule changes during a Morgie and you're unable to see the chart of the Morgie you're participating in, you can temporarily grant your old rank rule to yourself in hashtag temporal request. Player abuse the temporal system in any way will receive minus 50 MMR on the strike. I would say well potentially. There is some scenarios where you might not be caught, but again, they want the rules to be definitive, so that's fine, I guess. But I'm sure there's some ways you can abuse it that is fine. If your rank rule changes, yeah, that's giving you a hypothetical, which is fine. Actually, data hypothetical is another fine one. You can using in the permissional sense, not in the capability sense. Your old rank rule to yourself, and again, that because there's a hashtag in front of it, we know that means the channel. So now we're on to part 5 out of 12. Right, so we're making good progress here. Should be done in just over an hour, I'd say. From now, players can. So part 5 host. Part A says players can queue as a host using the /ch command in MorgieBot. If no host is chosen automatically after the format is decided, players can volunteer as a host by posting room ID or using the exponential FC command in StatsBot. If the player is randomly chosen to be a host, they must post the room ID or their friend code within 2 minutes of the polling, unless they have entered the room ID into MorgieBot in advance. Failure to post the room ID or the friend code or refusal of the host will result in one strike. This bit here is all conditional to the last condition. Just in case there's confusion there. Yes, you can queue, that's fine. If no host, it's automatically. So if no one chose to be a host, like do /ch, someone can volunteer. Usually, like, which is fine. The commands in MorgieBot, it means the commands that utilizes MorgieBot or StatsBot. Weird form of terminology, but the way they use the word there, but that's relatively fine, I'd say. If the player is randomly chosen, you can only be randomly chosen if you do /ch and there is multiple /ch contendants or contendants who've done /ch. Part I say players who are host banned or chat restricted are not allowed to host an event. Part 2 says player who violates I will receive a 3-day mute, which makes you incapable of playing, basically. Part 3 says please post the room ID in uppercase letters. Failure to do so may be subject to a host ban penalty if confusion arises when entering or leaving the room. That's because the letters are always in uppercase. The code is always in uppercase, so yeah. Again, that's actually fine. Use conditional right, all that. Part 4 says if you're live streaming your launch matches, it is recommended to hide the room ID in some way when it is visible on the screen to prevent random players from joining. Which, yeah, again, that's a recommendation. Doesn't really belong in the rules section, but it is adjacent enough so it makes sense why they place it here. Part V says if a random player joins the room and the room has to be restarted. Oh, sorry. Hello.
Ah, sorry, you were talking.
Hello, Ducky.
Hello.
Yeah, we're just.
Hello.
You are live, by the way. We are reading the launch world right now.
What did you say?
We are reading the launch rules right now. We are on part 5, section 5, which is to do with host. Yeah, so that's what you're joining in on, just.
Okay.
Where were we? Yeah, so it is recommended. Whatever. If a random player joins the room and the room has to be restarted, it is recommended to switch to hosting the room through a friend code only. If a random player can be identified as a player in the launch, please make a report ticket in the hashtag report. Again, that's a recommendation. Oh, well, the starting there is fine. It has to be restarted because the random's in the room. There are scenarios where if the random, like if they joined accidentally, realize that they're launch Morgie and leave, that's entirely fine. You don't have to restart in that case, but it is recommended to switching. That's all just recommendations. Doesn't really belong in the rules section, but is adjacent. Again, this is a please, so this isn't a command. This is a request, and it does actually work quite well as a request. But rules isn't a place for where requests are made. It's where commands are given. But I guess it's adjacent enough, so it makes sense why they would place it here. They are using the term rules here quite loosely, I would say, which is not great, but we'll allow it. If the room is being hosted with a friend code, the host must wait 2 minutes after posting the friend code to accept a friend request before opening the room. If the room is opened early, the late penalty comes into effect after 7 minutes of the friend code being posted. Should players request the room to be reopened, if opened early, the host must do so or else receive 1 strike. So yeah, technically the host doesn't have to wait 2 minutes, given that how the penalty works, but technically works the way it's worded. It shouldn't really cause much confusion. So yeah, you can technically open it before the 2 minutes. Like you technically do have that permission, but if requested to reopen it, you must do so or risk receiving a strike. Part C says, in the event of a room closure after the first race, hosts have to wait 5 minutes after they reopen. After 5 minutes, the host can start the Morgie, even if there aren't 12 players in the room. That's because you're not in the start of the Morgie anymore. So if you're not able to join, that's on you. You're not quitting the Morgie because of that. That's actually something very important to know, as there are actual scenarios where that can come up, and players may unrightfully think that they have to wait for a 12 player, maybe try to find a sub, and that can lead to cancel Morgies. So it is actually worth noting. Part 5C. It's not an error per se, but like it is actually a good one to just know off the top of your head, or know where to find it so that you can give reference to it. Part D says, if there is no host for a Morgie 10 minutes after the poll ends, the entire lineup will receive -50 and a MMR, I should say there. Again, no units. Don't know if these people ever done maths before, but you need to have your unit. And a strike, excluding host banned and chat restricted players. That's because host banned and chat restricted players are ineligible for hosting, and so they should not receive a ban, or they should not receive punishment as such, as their previous punishment restricts them from doing so. And that way you'd be getting multiple punishments for the one crime. So yeah, that's thing enough. That's a that's more of a warning, I would say, but it is again, it's adjacent. You could definitely word it to be more so of following what the term rules typically means, but you get the idea, I presume. Hopefully, if you don't, then leave a comment and I'll explain it after. Part E. In the event that a player disconnects before the first race of a Morgie starts, in brackets by the end of Latitude Countdown, the room must be restarted regardless of video booth submissions. This will only apply once. If a player disconnects before the Morgie, a A second time, the room should continue without closing. A player should provide video proof of the disconnection if requested, otherwise they will receive minus 50 MMR and a strike. If the host does not restart, the first race will not count and an additional 13th race will need to be played at the end. Which, yeah, the 13th race isn't that fun now, but if you have to do it, you have to do it. It is recommended you restart though, because that first race, like, you're just wasting everyone's time. Yeah, so again, the room must be restarted. Technically, it doesn't have to be if you're willing to play a 13 race, and then typically that leads to confusion. So I would recommend restarting it. But yeah, if you ever disconnect, it's typically a good idea to screen restart, clip it with the switch. Unless you're streaming. If you're streaming, then you're fine. You don't need to worry too much about that. If you're streaming the game, but I should say, there'll be proof of it. So part F says host should start the room with the following settings: the class 150cc, teams no teams, items no items, calm house calm, vehicles all vehicles, race count 12 races. Hosts who do not comply with the above rules settings may have the corresponding races declared invalid and may be subject to a host ban penalty. If the edit is messed up for multiple races, no one catch on, then it can cause a lot of problems and lead to a cancelled mortgage, which is not ideal. But yeah, though, again, it didn't say should. That makes it as if it's a choice. Like, if I wanted to, I could ignore that and do 200cc instead, which wouldn't make much sense given this 150cc launch mortgage. Or it could even do Renegades. You might be confused. No teams, even though they're out team format. These are using the in-game settings, so you do not want the game to know that there are teams. That way there was no favoritism from the game, because the way the game sets up teams, it only works for 6v6, and it reduces the possibility of team kills quite a lot, and it makes it a lot less balanced, the game in general, as shocks, for example, become extremely overpowered, and the blues may target you even if you're not in first without any glitches or errors happening. So part G says host that start a room with less than 12 players to close the room for no reason or otherwise cause unnecessary disruption will receive minus 50 and a strike, and again that should be minus 50 MMR and a strike, and may be prohibited from hosting in the future. If hosts disconnect in the middle of an orgy, hosts must take a 30-second clip to prove that it was unintentional. Typing host ban in any chat will exponential host ban in any chat will show the list of host banned players. Right, so a bit to dissect here. TOG. Now, the problem is, if it's a continuation, like as above, we've gone into VC here. The host can start even if there aren't 12 players in the room after the 5 minutes. So that kind of conflicts. I will say that typically, host section 5C has more precedent than G. It has more priority. So in that scenario, you can actually start. So yes. Yes, you can start the room a second time with less than 12 players. If it's not the first time you're starting the room and it's mid-morgy, so it's after the first race has been completed, that is a lot. So basically, when it says host must take a 30-second clip, it means they have to show proof. Host ban players must wait at least 90 days before appealing their host ban. So in other words, if you're host banned, you're stuck with it for 90 days before you're even capable of appealing for it. Sucks to suck. Part H says, room hosts are responsible for taking screenshots of results. If the host failing to take screenshots to prevent the table from being made, the host will receive a -100 MMR and a strike. With that, it is implicit that if there is that you share the screenshots with the other players, if necessary. In order to make table. You can also not share it and just create a table yourself if you really want. You are not required to make the table even if you are the host though. Sometimes the host is not even capable of making table because they don't have to report a role. But yeah, just a bit of a note. Part 6 match rules. part A says once a rumor has been, and I should mention that like if you don't share it, like and like refusal to share the screenshot even though you have it is counted the same as you not taking the screenshot in practice. So yeah, part A of match rules, which is section 6, says once a room has been opened, players will have 5 minutes to join the room, unless the room is opened early, which reference to that is in rule 4 and section 4 C. Well, I guess rule 4 part C, that's fine either, or before the scheduled time and launch queue event, unless the room is opened early or before the scheduled time and launch queue event. For example, if the host posts their friend code at 9 and opens at 9:02, players are considered late at 9:08, not 9:05, which would be 5 minutes. Oh, not 9:07. If a room ID is... Oh no, that's fine, never mind. If a room ID is posted in a launch queue room at 8:57, the late penalty will be at 9:06. So that's saying that if it's posted early, if you create the room early, you still have the standard late penalty. The late penalty never comes later than either 7 minutes after the ID or the 7 minutes after the friend code is given, or 5 minutes after the typical late penalty. Oh, the typical late penalty for launch queue. That's also the same for squad queue. But yeah. Part B says player that joins the room late will receive a minus 50 MMR strike. What counts as late is what referred to above in the late penalty. So 9:06, and just hypothetical event. It becomes quite intuitive after you play enough games, but typically be within 5 minutes, basically. Part C says if a player still has not joined the room 5 minutes after the penalty time, they will receive a minus 100 MMR. They will receive minus 100 MMR and a strike. Again, they keep messing up how to do that, and must be replaced by a sub as soon as possible. The Morgie can't start with less than 12 players under any condition. This it shouldn't be should not, it should be can't or may not, as should technically gives allowance to it. And there is actual conditions here, but for example, squad queue conditions. So yeah, that is a lie, another lie. I should be counting other lies, but yes, that's another problem in the rules. Shocker, I know. We thought these rules were perfect. Turned out they're not. And then in context I here we can see if a lineup is struggling to find a sub, please tag launch staff to tag at here for a sub. That doesn't really work if you're on launch queue. That really only work if you're in a teal. But yeah. Players who sub in a match that has already started, party players who sub in a match that has already started do not lose MMR on a losing team. Only gain MMR on a winning team if they played 4 or more races inside event, and a match has started. And just for extra context, a match has started once the first race has been completed, with the race result being shown. Players that sub in before the first race will be given normal MMR gain or losses. Just a bit of clarification there. Players who sub in a match that has already started, technically, there are scenarios where, say you sub in, or you start to sub after race 1, say in the middle of race 1, technically by it would consider you from the start. But if the first race which you had no capability of joining was successfully completed, then you would be considered it would be considered you have subbed in a match that has already started. If it failed to have finished, then you would have played all 12 races. You'd be capable of playing all 12 races, and you'd be considered normal MNR gain or loss potential. Part E says players who repick a course will receive a minus 50 MMR penalty. This does not include repicks from random track selections. So this would be random track selections. But yeah, players who repick a course at least twice will receive a minus 50 MMR penalty for each instance and a strike. Repicking twice results in minus 100 MMR plus strike, repick it 3 times, results in minus 150 MMR and strike. So the strikes are not cumulative there, but the MMR penalty is what I think it is saying, even though it contradicts it. Well, no, it's fine enough, but there can be some confusion there, but that's why it's important to read the bracket like that. This penalty applies even if you sub, so be sure to ask the other players in your match which courses have been played, or pick random on the track select screen. Now, if it's a scenario where you asked if this track can be played and people said no, and then later turned out it was, they tried a penalty for you. If you have receipts of them showing you, them telling you that it had not been played, and that from your point of view you would have no way of knowing that it had been played, or very little anyways, for a reasonable person to have known, then you're fine. You'll likely not actually receive the penalty for it, as it is out of your control. Just make sure to open a ticket for that, I would recommend. So part I said, if the player who reported the repick fires an objection and no video or other evidence can be confirmed, the penalty may be revoked. However, in that case, we, and by we they mean the staff lounge, may check the facts with the reporter and other players who participate in the morgie. So in other words, they might have a full-blown FBI level investigation, and you may lose custody of your house. Part 2 mentions in squad queue 6v6 matches, repicking a course will also result in a minus 20 penalty to the team score, subtracting from the offending player's score. Can be useful to know, as that can actually change who actually wins. So yeah, which team actually wins the squad queue. It only specifies squad queue, but like it really doesn't need to, as it could just say in 6v6 matches. But there are no non-squad queue 6v6 matches in the current time. But I would still recommend just saying in 6v6 matches. But I guess maybe to get rid of confusion, as in squad queues you can have 6v6 matches. Even though in above it implied that you cannot, there are rocket ones who have 6v6 matches, surprisingly. Where were we? Yeah, so yeah, that's all fine. Players must use their launch nickname or shortened legible version if the shortened version is more than 10 characters in FFA format, events, Japanese characters and all that. So yeah, this is a big problem, and this lineup here, and I actually did mention it before in the launch. Alright, someone added me here. Yeah, I'm deliberately not joining the other VC because I don't want to annoy them. People want to join, that's fine. Yeah. Maybe after. So what was I saying? Yes, if we look in hashtag general, and now this has actually been even picked up on. Let's see. In gen. Tab. No. In general rules. So I have to go back, but yeah, just to say, like, this is actually a very big problem. Yeah, right, here I have it. So I told the people there is a big problem with the launch rules, part 6F, which is part we must read. I just read, so I won't go over it again. So the rule says a shortened legible version is only presented at the same shortened version, but 10 characters long. So what it should have said here is if the launch nickname is more than 10 characters. But yeah, it messed up there. So yeah, that is actually a big problem and can lead to some unfair, unjust rulings, but as long as you know about it, you can avoid the risk. I recommend for the time being, do not have a name longer than 10 characters, even though you can, as it can lead to forced penalties if FFA are picked, which can be out of your control. And then here it gives some guidelines. Shortened names must be at least 3 characters long. Players must not add any characters that are not in their launch name, including replacing characters with visually similar ones or a different language. This is another problem. I did also bring this up later, I believe. Did I? There's also a slight problem with VIF2. And then players must not. This is the second one. Just this don't find it all, but leads to an oversight with characters that are in the player's name may be artificially added. And I give the example of Wada. Would be acceptable if Lone's name was called Wada, even though it's not the original name. I suggested the following amendments. Must not add any character in access to the launch name, including replacing characters with visually similar or a different language. But yeah, that's all for that. Yeah, so that's the main problem with that, but I would say. But I don't remember much problems later on. Like, we're out of the worst parts of the rules, I'm pretty sure, where like most of the others are, but I could be wrong. FFA, so part 3 says FFA names must be distinguishable from players who may have similar names in the same mortgage, and failure to abide by any of these naming guidelines after the first 2 races will result in minus 50 MMR. So I'm pretty sure that is only referring to shortened names, but typically it's within the how the launch is set up. If you use proper name, your proper launch name, if it's less than 10 character, it is used typically distinguishable as 2 people cannot have the same name. So don't worry too much about that, I would say. Unless there's some oversight, in which case, yeah, you're screwed. So yeah, and now it says any of these guys failure to abide by any of these naming guidelines after the first 2 races will result in minus 50 more. The reason it says after the first 2 races is sometimes it takes time for the name to update. In this scenario, if you're not sure your name updated or not, change characters and even change back to your other character again, and your name will have certainly updated, presuming you have changed it. Part C said, in team matches, players must decide on a tag to use in their name with their teammates. Tags must adhere to the following guidelines. I should also mention up here that whenever I say name change, there may be confusion because on your screen it would automatically show, maybe, but on other players' screen it might not show, which is what's important to the other player's screen. That's why it's recommended you change it, and you change character, even if you just change like the color you're playing, and you can change back immediately right after, as long as you went through the whole section. So yeah, now we're looking at the rules of which tag players must decide on a tag to use in their name with their teammates. Tags must adhere to the following guidelines. Tags must either all be placed at the beginning of players' names or all at the end of players' names. For example, the following is allowed: A star Cinder, A star Dougal, Cinder star A, Dougal star A. And the following is not allowed: A star Cinder, Dougal star A, T M capital A N M A R I O, A star Cinder, A star Dougal, and Cinder XX, Dougal XX. So we'll look to it here. These 2 are allowed because they follow. Now, why these not one? The first one here, they're not both at the start or both at the end. They are different. These are not at the start or the end. They're just, I know, the cause confusion. Here, it's not allowed because that's a capital and that's a non-capital A. They need to be the same. And here, I believe that's due to confusion, and you can't really tell where the tag starts. If you have it at the end, you have to be careful with just certain extra rules that apply. So part 2 said 2 teams may not use tags which begin with the same character, and upper and lower case of the same letters count as the same character, and they're saying like within scope of the rules. And 2 teams may not use hiragana and katakana tags of the same sound, which I'm guessing is basically the equivalent of upper and lower case is, but in effect of how the rules work anyways. And there's an example there. I'm not going to pretend I speak Japanese, so I'm not going to pronounce that. Apologies. The team which declares their tag first in the chat will have priority regarding this rule. So yeah, if 2 people say tag B, whoever said tag B first would typically be given the preference, unless one of them says, "Nah, you can have it," or whatever. Part 3 says players must arrange uppercase, lowercase, and haranga katakana tags with their teammates. Part 4 says symbols that look similar to letters or numbers are classed as the same and cannot be used for another team has claimed it. So if someone said uppercase I, you cannot use lowercase l, for example. Yeah, stuff like that. So what next are we on? Where are we? Tags at the end of the name must be separated from the rest of the names, which is separated such as a space or symbol. That's what was the problem with the last bit here. There are certain symbols you're typically meant to use if you're separating via that. Part VI, the players' names must not begin with the first character of another team's tag, if that's not your team's tag. VII, if not stated otherwise, the tag should start at the beginning of the name by default with regard to I. Will I. And then VII, if not stated otherwise, oh no, we just read that, I'm dumb. Failure to use same tag in the same team or abide by any of the naming guidelines after the first 2 races will result in a minus 50 MMR penalty. So it is said after the first 2 races, so that means from race 3 onwards. Just for understanding. H says players who drop from an event before it starts will receive minus 100 MMR and a strike by default. If a player drops after the first race has been completed, they will receive a minus 50 MMR strike and receive an MMR penalty according to Rule 5I. Players who drop from an event are ineligible for MMR gain from the emoji even if their team wins. So tough luck, I guess. It's what no.
Oh, Patrick.
Oh fuck!
Hello,
Sorry,
Patrick.
1 second. Hello.
Oh, did you got both muted? That's funny.
You've had some interesting philosophies thus far.
Alright, thank you. You enjoying the rules reading, I'm
I
guessing?
think staff will be very appreciative.
Yeah, when you do
They will appreciate this stream.
Oh well, this is for the people, not just staff. Yeah.
Patrick, can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, I can hear you.
Patrick.
Hello?
No, he's got his meeting, hasn't he?
Patrick, English or Spanish?
Okay, I don't know if they can hear
Maybe
me.
you got something in your nose.
No, he doesn't got me.
Right, so carrying on the rules, where was I?
Oh shit.
Players that drop from the event. Where was
Patrick, English or Spanish?
Did you get muted here?
Hello, Diki. I don't know why you can't hear me on Discord, but apologies for that.
How are you today, Mr. D-Key?
Yeah, I'm alright. Yeah, Patrick's just not muted.
We need to get Stephen Dace to join VC. I'm going to pin him.
Oh my god, yeah, give him to Jonas VC, give him to Jonas on this. No.
Oh god, I'm pinning him.
Yeah, I think it's safe that I need to deafen from now on, unfortunately. Where were we again? Players that drop from the more. So yeah, tough luck here. This is more context, not really part of our world, but again, that's just giving you, just telling you so you can't complain basically. So it makes sense that's in this. Given how they use the term rules very loosely, it seems. Part I says teams missing a player, including because of disconnections, for at least 4 races will lose MMR proportionate to the amount of races the player missed, presuming the team lost. For example, teammate of a player who missed 6 races will receive 6 or half a loss, or 0-12 loss if the teammate missed 12 races. The player who missed at least 4 races will receive a strike. Sometimes you can miss 1 or 2 miss. You can miss 1 or 2 races because of DCs, but you have to be fine. But yeah, 4 races will lose MMR proportional. It should say that it should be what that you won't lose MMR if your team won, for example, and like you had a player missing. That would make no sense because you had a disadvantage, and so you lose MMR because of your disadvantage, even though it's meant for lessen the MMR loss. But so don't worry too much about that. If a player drops after the first race, their partner participating in the mode can choose whether or not to find a sub for the dropped player. Yeah, so it is up to them. Interesting enough, but yep, seems a bit contradictory to the previous world, but maybe we'll worry not about that. Typically, I guess this one would take precedent. Seems. Oh, it seems this one would actually lack priority if there was other ones that had priority, I should say. If any player is disqualified from an event for any reason such as but not limited to throwing, teaming, or lap throwing on any track except baby park in formats other than 66 squad queue, they will receive a minus 100 MMR strike. So yeah, so for some reason we're not throwing, teaming, or lap trolling. So this bit in here is only permitted. The bracket is only permitted for lap trolling. For some reason they allow lap trolling on baby park. Potentially because it's a very short track and you can oftentimes get overlapped naturally in format. So in 66 you're allowed to lap troll, so in 66 squad queues if you find it advantageous. It's not saying that you're allowed to lap troll on baby park in all formats except for 66 squad queues, which wouldn't make any, because that wouldn't make much sense. Why have that distinction? Wouldn't make any competitive sense, at least from my understanding of the game. But if you want to argue against that, that's fine. They will receive a minus 100 MMR strike. So yeah, there it uses the term correctly. No, it does not. Will receive minus 100 MMR and a strike. But our problems again. But right. Players may not use an in-game name or me that is offensive, abusive toward others, containing inappropriate language, or violate any laws. Use of any offensive names or means will result in a warning or mute, depending on the severity of the name, as well as possible punishment by MK Central staff. I'm not familiar of too many ways you can violate any laws, but I should say that by laws, I'm pretty sure they only mean violating any laws of which you yourself are encompassed of. If you have a name that that's like, say you had a name that was some variant of like Winnie the Pooh. In China, that name would probably be illegal due to the fact of Ya Jinping, whatever. However, I don't think you would get punished here unless you are affected, unless you are encompassed within that law. So unless you're a Chinese citizen, I don't think having Winnie Pooh or whatever as your name would get you punished. I could be wrong though, so consult staff if you are thinking of doing such. I would recommend consulting staff or an expert on the rules if you want to do so beforehand. Part 7, disconnections and lag, or Section 7, disconnections and lag. We are halfway done. Let's go. These are a lot shorter though, so it's not going to take another hour and a half, don't worry. Part A. If 3 or more players from at least 2 different teams disconnect or experience delayed items, in brackets only coins will stream in at least 2 different item sets during a race, the race will not count and the room must be reopened regardless of video proof submission. Players should provide video proof of the disconnection. Again, what it means. So switch clip, stream, error, history, etc. of the disconnection if requested. Otherwise, they will receive minus 50 MMR and a strike. So let's just check here real quick. 2 different teams disconnect or experience delayed items. It is not saying that coins and shrooms are considered delayed items. What it means is if you experience delayed items, you will only get coins or shrooms depending on if you're first or not, because that's how that works. Now sometimes if you're first, if you keep chaining your coin and keep getting singles, you might keep getting singles. You should hold your coins first of all. But if you get multiple coins, like say you have coin and then you get another coin, that is proof or at least evidence of delayed item. While if you use the coin and then got a second coin, that is not considered evidence because of the game works. So just for clarification there. I presume the same with the mushroom, but I'm not entirely sure. It's been a while since I've studied item and all that. Item play. Item mechanics and stuff. Item roulette. Oh, yeah. Poppy says, if a race does not finish due to lag, the race will not be counted and the room will be opened. What I mean by race will not be finished, if you see the end result, so the leaderboard, or who all got or what scores, then the race counts. If you don't see it, even if everyone passed the line, the race won't count. So yeah. If no races can be finished for an extended amount of time due to lag, the event may be cancelled with no players losing MMR. What I mean by extended amount of time is ambiguous, but yeah, it's specifying due to lag. I would extend that not just to lag if I was, but also to other case scenarios where outside the normal expected play of the game, potentially due to random joining the room, leaving the room, joining the room, leaving example. Then races wouldn't be able to finish, and in that case, you typically are able to cancel them already, I would say. But if there's extensive problem, and has happened before, although there are cases in 150cc launch, the ones I can only reference on 200cc launch, so I cannot give any case studies for this. Apologies. Part T says, if this happens to occur during an event, please attempt to capture video proof of the individual who may be causing the lag in the room. So what this means there is video proof if you have evidence of who you think is causing it. And if the proof is convincing and if the majority of the room agrees on who is causing the lag, staff has the right to punish the individual for a certain amount of time or want them to fix their connections before playing again. Technically, the staff have the right regardless, so Part D doesn't really make much sense, but it is recommended. Again, a request, not a command, but again, they're not request. They're not commanding it. Like, you don't have to. You're not going to get penalty if you don't. They can't really prove if you attempted it or not sometimes, so that's why. So we'll leave that there, but really, it's again not a command. So why is it in the rules section? No idea. Apart from the fact that it's adjacent to the rules and they use the term rules very loosely, very peculiarly, if I do say so myself. Part E says, if a player cannot rejoin the room due to an error, such as connection incompatibility with another player in the room, the player can call for a room to be opened one time. All races which have started when lack of use content is finished prior to the players asking for a reopen will still count. So you cannot use this to get everyone to play 11 races, then call and restart the 11 races. Yeah, you can't like get a double length of emoji that way. So it doesn't really work for trolling. Players should be able to provide proof of their issue if requested. Failure to provide proof will result in -50 MMR and a strike. Finally, they address it properly and have both the units and the addition of a strike. Great. Yes, this is a stream of all time jokes. Welcome in. We are going on to part 8 of a 12 section rule, as you say. We're starting part 8 now. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them down in the comments when you feel like it's relevant. So now going on to section 8, disconnections and lag. Part A. If 3 or more players from at least 2 different teams disconnect or experience delayed items, only going to assume in at least 2 different item sets during the race will not count. Sorry, we just finished 8. I'm sorry. Right, we're going on to part 9. My bad. Sorry me, we're going on to section 9. I was nearly going to read section 8 again. My bad. So, strike system. Part A says, player who receive MMR penalties for quitting matches, lap trolling, joining the room late, targeting specific players, or teaming will also receive a strike. Strike expires after 30 days. Players have a limit of 3 strikes. What does it mean by a limit of 3 strikes? We'll see that shortly. Players who receive MMR penalty for quitting matches will also receive a strike. There are, you will receive a strike. Fair enough. So what does strike do? This isn't really a command. I didn't tell you follow this, but it is giving you the results of what would happen. So I'm setting to have it in here, I guess. Part B says players who reach 3 strikes will receive the following punishments. First offense, 7-day mute. Second offense, 14-day mute. And third offense, 28-day mute. And then strikes limits are reset each season. So if you break it again, if you have your 4th 3 strike offense, put it in a new season, then it would only count as your 1st offense, potentially. That is what it's referring to there. Might not be worded the clearest, but there's a lot more problems in the rules, and this would be one of the later parts I would worry about fixing. Part 9 conduct. Oh wait, no, this was part 8. I just can't read. Okay. Part 9, conduct. Section A, players who consistently cause disruptions in the server, such as trolling, flaming, spamming, bot commands, etc., will either receive a chat restriction or a mute or a temporary time of VS staff distraction, and you can see brackets, only allowing them to send certain messages if they have chat restriction. So yeah, again at staff discretion. So the fact it says that like there are certain cases where it's not that you are guaranteed to receive either one of these, so but you are most likely to do so. So a wee bit misleading then again, or they intend to anyway. So yeah, a bit misleading. But part B, players who consistently cause disruption in matches such as trolling, targeting specific players, entering, etc., will receive a 3-day mute and may receive increased punishment on repeated instances. Granted, the fact that it's consistent typically implies that it's repeated incidents, but who knows. Part I says targeting is defined as disrupting the race of another player through excessive item use, whereby their race is significantly negatively impacted by score or placement, and or the player targeting impact their own races in a similar manner. Now, this is about messy wording, and they actually recognize this, so they further elaborate. Fair enough, they can't think of ways to word it better. Fine, if they want to take DM me and I will help them, but I'm not salty, don't worry about that. So part 2 says making a claim. If you believe someone is targeting, please take multiple videos as evidence and report them using the ticket system. Videos can be from Switch clips, MKTV streams, with timestamps, and etc. So you could have a like video on like YouTube that would count. If you had like recording on your phone, that would be fine, I'd say. Although if it's decent quality, that is, I presume it'd be fine, as it typically is for other such things. Some examples of targeting: slowing to read the same player, slowing to start the same player, spamming items at the same player excessive, and so on. And now there's a note here. We encourage you to consider different play styles player may have, lag, genuine mistakes, and how close your emoji is in terms of points before submitting your claim. In other words, what that's trying to say is those cases where it may appear they are trolling, or they may be specifically targeting a player or team, but it may be for a competitive advantage. For example, if they're say only done or say they're in first place, your team in second place, they start targeting you, that might be to try and keep the lead, and you might be the only team they're worried about, so they're ensuring you cannot beat them. Even if it risks lowering their score, it's kind of like playing Scrabble. You might not always go for the best word. You might go for, if you're winning, say by like 50 points, you might go for a low scoring word that blocks the potential for the other player to get a bingo. It's kind of like that. So in some cases, you might not always want a high score. It's potentially possible, and that's why it has that there as a note. So part C says, any NSFW content at the server will be promptly deleted, and the user that posts it will receive an indefinite chat restriction. Again, makes sense. A bit better word, could be a bit better worded, but it's fine. I think most people would get the idea of this, and there isn't too many. A lot of what the problem here is I've mentioned previously, so yeah. T says players who are banned from NK Central may face similar consequences and launch depending on the severity of the ban. Detailed information about NKC ban and launch can be found here. This could be a story for another day. At the moment, we're just doing worlds, so yeah, apologies if you're looking for that. But you can still find it by going into the launch.com Mario Kart 80X launch rules and clicking on it at section 9 part D. So now going into the results. A, an online war table generator can be found here. So again, that's just giving you information. That doesn't really belong in a rule set, but okay. And yeah, it can be found there. B, in order for a match to be counted using a war table with autocorrect player names is required. Any penalties that occur during the match must also be stated. Yep. C, only certain people will be given access to the result channel in order to prevent spam. If you want to become a reporter, please check that at the Self Rules channel. D, tables must be submitted using the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe bot and the launch server. For more info on how to use this bot, click here. If you need a tutorial on that, then yeah, use it. Again, you know how to where to find this rules. I didn't think of linking it in the description because I didn't think about the YouTube live stream description. I apologize for that. But yes, obviously you can pull up rules on your own and then follow along here. You can click that if you need. Now, a few problems here. An online, using a war table or artifact player names is required. Typically, you use a bot. Since you use a bot to do all this, you typically don't need to worry too much about it, as the bot will fix it itself. And again, there's the condition here there's a condition here that which it doesn't properly fit. There should be there's a recommendation to check. I would recommend we recommend you check the hashtag self-worth channel in order to give you the potential to be given the reporter role. But again, generally stated, it's probably fine. And like the bot won't work if you don't use server nicknames anyways. You'll know. So yeah, don't worry too much if you're afraid of messing that up. We're near the end here. That's great. Part 11, squad queue. Now there is a big problem with this part here. So yeah, I will get down a bit. This is a very big problem, and a lot of launch people have pointed that out in a recent time. So yes, part 11, squad queue A. Squad queue is I should say section 11. Sorry. A. Squad queue is a different way of playing launch that allows players to play with predetermined teammates. For more information about squad queue, click here. Again, information, but it's fine. B. If a player fails to show up for a match, misses at least half an event, or trolls during an event, they will receive the SQ restricted role for 1 week. This role is essentially a ban from SQ for the duration that the player has the role. SQ is just short for squad queue. I know it doesn't properly define that anywhere, but it is expected that you would know that. So I am giving you that context. So yeah, here's where the big problem is. We're going to Discord. We'll go into the 150cc lounge and rules. Let's look at page 1. So as you can see, the big meow, T-Bow and Shape, X, Wada. Oh no, that's something else. D-Key, I'm pretty sure that says. I have two more, so I can't see the name. DS Mario Circuit, Froy, Tokyo, and Wada. I'm pretty sure it started with this guy here. So let's jump over here. Yeah, all the same problem. They all have nearly word for word nearly identical. So what it says here is XI Poppy states the following, which is what we just read, so I won't read it again. And that given the context, we can reasonably understand during to refer to the time frame of which the morgue is taking place. Now, this was tested among other individuals, and turns out that is the consensus, or typical consensus. The problem is that there is ambiguity. Ambiguity is a big problem when it comes to rules, because you don't want to allow a lot of interpretation, as the rules aren't really properly enforced, or they can be forced to be enforced in places where the rule makers might not want them to be enforced. So yeah, player is never defined to only active members of a morgue in the context of said morgue when applying the rules. Given context, we can presume a player to refer to any 150cc launch player. The reason 150cc launch player only is because the rules that they do it MKDX and 150cc launch. They don't have scope outside of that. This means that both you and I are considered players. This means that they are considered players at all times, so the person they're responding to and themselves. Meaning, if you aren't in a morgue, you are still bound to the rules. It makes sense if you're trolling, if you're joining the room when you're not meant to, that you should be punished. The problem is the scope of trolling has no end, as the rule says during an event, not in an event. So if you just so happen to troll your friend in, say, Minecraft whilst a mortgage is active, then you should be given the SQ restricted rule. I don't know, like, there's like, by the way, there's mortgage going on 24/7. Even if you're just interpreting it to say SQ mortgage, which is fine. Maybe you do that. Like, that means you can never troll your friend in Minecraft. What's the point of playing Minecraft if you can't troll your friends? That's very breaching. Like, that's very, yeah, very bad. Well, they really need to fix that. So yeah, probably the problem. If a team can find a sub for a missing player before the late penalty time, the missing player will not receive the squad keep restricted rule. As we mentioned, sub is technically illegal, as mentioned above. And part 3, I believe, section 3, is it? Yes, section 3, B4, as I thought. And so C says subs are allowed in squad queue offense. However, the subs MMR must follow at least one of these conditions. The team would still be in the same room with the sub MMR taken into place. The sub MMR is within 1,000 MMR of the original player. In the case that teams violate either of the above conditions, any MMR they win from the event will be voided and also receive SQ restricted. I don't know how you meet this condition, but apparently, what condition within the condition. So there's a case condition here, meaning there is a paradox here. I won't go too in depth there, but the fact that it's if either of the indicate that team violates either of the above conditions, but it says at least one of these following. So if you don't have both of them, right, very poorly worded again. I would just crash that altogether and rewrite it in a better manner, but there's a few bad doctors there, certainly. So part D says, if the host has been decided after opening time, the host has to wait 2 minutes to open the room. Again, this has to scenario isn't strict. Players need to be in the room in 5 minutes. Again, it shows you real IVB, which is saying that if it's opened early, then 7 minutes after the either code was given or the FC or the either the friend code was given or the room ID. After 10 minutes, the host can start Morgie even if there are not 12 players in the room. Again, playing the world from above, but we've already went through that. And so, part 12 are the notes. Not really typically found of weight part in the rules, but fitting in nonetheless, and we'll end it here. A. Players please read the ticket guidelines section of the support report channels before creating a support report ticket. To be, it is recommended. I wouldn't use the word please for command, or be familiar with it. Would be better. Be familiar with the ticket guidelines section with the ticket guidelines before. Yeah. Part B, chat restricted, mute and host banned rules are for punishments and are not available upon requests. That's just a bit of context. Again, we already spoke decently about that. There is a possibility that penalties may be more severe at the discretion of loan staff based on severity and history of behaviour. Part C, that is said. And that is why there is a certain part above where it says that the staff has the right to, or whatever. Like, they already have the right. They give themselves the right here. So that's why, like, them sections don't actually make any sense. Part D says loan staff will make decisions in the event of unexpected circumstances not listed here. So basically, giving themselves the double L but rule thing, right? When basically quoted that as there's no rules that says dogs can't play, even though assumed a quote from Airbuds, which is a movie about dogs playing basketball, if I remember correctly. I may be mistaken though, and if I am, apologies. Part D, loan staff will make decisions in the effect. Yeah, we read that. And finally, Part E, players who have received sanctions for an indefinite period of time must wait at least 90 days before appealing their punishment, excluding players who are indefinitely chat restricted or muted because they're on an indefinite MK Central ban. In which case, you would appeal to the MK Central ban instead. But that's technically outside the scope of the launch, 150cc launch, so it makes sense that. And finally, copyright 2022 launch, I'm pretty sure this is fair use. That comes under criticism. I'm pretty sure the ones who wrote this is likely American, so fair use would apply to them. They can't really stop me. Or I just fucked up. They'll shoot me now, which is fine. But yeah, that's all. I mean, technically that's the footer anyway, so that's not even part of the section of read that. Apologies. That is all. Any questions? That would be fine. I'll just undo until what? Watch it. Okay, people are adding me. I'm gonna assume there's no questions, and I'll just wait a wee while. In which case, I'll end the stream shortly. Alright, and I'll end stream then.